I want to talk about what actually happens when you leave Instagram as an artist. You've probably heard a lot of people talking about doing this, including me, and we all have been focused on the negative aspects. Leaving itself sounds scary, terrifying, impossible, financially risky, a way to deny yourself potential opportunities. But I want to prove to you that most of those things and the other stuff you're telling yourself about why you can't leave is probably incorrect and holding you back from your creativity. Leaving Instagram and TikTok are instead a perfect opportunity for you to find creative freedom and feel like an unleashed dog running in a field of grass. It is time for your creative zoomies. I'm Mel, and I'm an adventure artist, so to do this, I am going to show you everything that I have made since leaving 76 days ago. Let's do it. Chapter 1, Sketchbooks. So I'm working on this little blue sketchbook, which you might have seen if you saw my video about evaluating my sketchbook halfway through. I started this on April 2nd of 2024, and I'm still not done because I like to scroll instead of draw. I decided that a strategy I could use to finally finish it, since there's not much left, is to do the Plan April challenge, basically to paint in your sketchbook, preferably outside in plein air, at least once a day, every day for the month of April. So I've got 28 pages left, and I'm going to push myself to finish these remaining 28 pages before starting a new sketchbook. Last fall, I have to admit, I became a victim of shiny new sketchbook syndrome and switched to only using this sketchbook. This larger art creation sketchbook has been really fun for me to explore, especially since I have been taking classes online to get better at using things like colored pencils when I'm out in the landscape. And so I've been experimenting in it. I like the larger size. I like being challenged to push myself to do things that are uncomfortable. And so in here, I'm letting myself be weird, and I really like that. Why am I talking about these sketchbooks? Well, it's because I think for you, sketchbooks are a really great way to get started with physical art if you're feeling scared. If you are someone who can only draw a stick figure, right? It's a place that you don't have to show anyone. You can just do weird stuff. I have plenty of sketches in here and in here that I think are ugly or quote unquote failures. But those failures taught me things about my materials. They helped me get better as an artist. And I think that's a thing that needs to motivate you for your sketchbook. Your growth, your learning, not what happens when you're on social media. And that doesn't make space for failure or ugly things or the reality that art is really slow and weird and inefficient and takes a different kind of time. My partner also started writing for Substack recently, and he made a post that I want to quote about how Instagram was pushing his work and making him not interested in photography anymore. Quote, "Several years of using Instagram had thoroughly degraded my ability to appreciate what I saw in the world around me. My world was being bit reduced into a format compatible with social media's presentations." I think that in and of itself is a really great point to consider when we see sketchbooks posted by artists on social media. We think that our sketchbook needs to look as good as theirs. I even find myself in this position here on YouTube, feeling like if I'm gonna sketch things, I have to make sure that they're good enough to post in a sketchbook tour. Like, what the hell? It's like I compare myself to creators who have been at this way longer than me, like James Gurney, and I want to be as good as he is. Want to be that good someday. But I need to remember that there are milestones along the way in these sketchbooks of me making mistakes and failing or having ugly sketches or weird things. And those are half the battle. It's half the reason why we want to make. We need to be able to create these sketches and make this stuff and not worry so damn much about how well it will do as a post on social media. We don't want that. None of us want to have a guide of an algorithm or an unseen, unspoken audience that happens to see your post fed to them on a given day, and then you use the numerical stats from that post to determine how well it does and makes you feel as though your art is valid or not valid. Why are we doing this to ourselves? Sketchbooks should just be a place for you to experiment and play and try stuff and not worry about having to post it until you're ready. And honestly, maybe you won't ever be ready. Maybe art is just a thing you do as a hobby, and it's okay to do just that. I am going to talk a little bit about some of my other hobbies that I don't sell or monetize. And I think having strict delineations for you, especially when you're in these learning phases, to not make your art into content is really, really important. Being an artist is a way of life. So that brings me to chapter 2, painting. I want to show you some of the paintings that I finished and the ones that I have just recently started since leaving Instagram. So I left Instagram on January 18th, and in early February I made this painting and even a video about it because I love mushrooms. They're great. There are so many things about these little guys that give me deep hope for how we can organize ourselves to be more like them. I made this painting in just one day on a clayboard panel of some mushrooms that I spotted in a creek in Tilden Regional Park in the Bay Area. This painting has taught me two main things. One, I definitely should be using panels. I like the way that my brush strokes look a little bit more on panels than on canvas. And two, I should definitely be using more of these clayboard panels. So these are cool because they work like traditional gesso, which is more absorbent. So it allows the paint to dry more quickly, thus allowing you to work more quickly. Let's put this little guy back up. I usually am an incredibly slow painter. I always think I've finished things. Like I worked on this in a recent session and I was like, cool, I have finished this painting of my favorite spot to watch the sunset in Pacifica. I think this is a common issue for artists, that we all see our work together as a body of work, and we might have felt like at the end of a session that we're done, but then the other work and leaving it up in your studio in the sunlight makes you realize there's like a little goblin inside of your art that's like, it's not done yet. It's not done. But I basically just want to make this section less uniform to this section so it looks like it's actually fading back in space in the atmosphere. Oddly, that is the thing that I need to do with this painting too. It's a commission that I am working on for a lavender farm based in Santa Rosa. This is going to get turned into greeting cards, which I'm really excited about. And there's an observatory there and this lavender labyrinth, and they're on this really cool mountain. And it's been super fun to be able to paint the labyrinth and the mountain behind. But the more I look at this in the daylight every day, the more I realize I really want to be able to set the background of the mountain back in space so that it feels like it has a nice, warm, glowy, gentle, hazy, sunny day kind of feel to it. I have almost finished this painting of a live oak tree. I'm really obsessed with live oak because one, these are an evergreen oak tree, which I did not know existed until I started this. And also it was covered in lichen in my reference photo. I just got this cute little book at Green Apple Books, and it's a lichenpedia. And honestly, as a human with a respiratory disability, these plants are awesome. They are a sign that the air around you is clean and safe, and they add so much wonderful beauty and lace-like mushroomy shapes to the tree's already gorgeous bark. So really looking forward to my painting session where I obsessively add little bits of lichen all over this guy. Made this handy color chart, which is honestly the most helpful thing you can do to learn your paint as an artist. So like if you got paint as a gift last year, you know, like a set, and you don't know the first thing about how it's all gonna mix together, make a color chart. Comment below if you want to see a video on that. I will share the basics of the color chart. It is basically like a spreadsheet for paint. So each row is a color and each column is a color. And then you just mix them together. So you mix whatever's on the row with whatever's on the column and you continue. This little thing gets hung on my wall. So while I'm painting at my easel, if I'm like, what does this need? I can look at my color chart and estimate the mixture I need by looking right here. In addition to all of these, I like to work in my studio on as many things as possible. So I started this guy last week. This is near Reinhardt Regional Redwood Park. The trail is so quiet and lush and full of my favorite trees, Sequoia sempervirens, aka the coast redwood. I think that these trees are absolutely magical. Their bark is really soft and pliable, so when it falls off onto the forest floor around them, it makes for this really quiet, dampened sound that brings me peace instantly. This is going to be based on a photograph that I shot on a hike in the pouring rain. I went out on this hike, dredged up in rain gear, it's pouring. I thought I was going to ruin my camera, but I got this just absolutely gem tone, drippy, gorgeous photograph, and it's going to be really fun to work this up into a big painting. And then lastly, I also started this one. That way, if all of my paintings are wet, I have something to work on. I should have something should be dry enough to work on. Originally, it was a sketch in my sketchbook, but it stuck with me for a while as a really compelling image. It means something. So this is not just a painting of Twin Peaks in San Francisco, but instead, it's about my grief of losing the city I idealized to tech oligarchy. It was my dream in 2012 to move to San Francisco and to live in a beautiful area like the Bay. And I feel so grateful that I've been able to do it. But now that I've been here for almost 5 years, something isn't right. I feel bogged down because every time I go on a hike, I see somebody wearing a hat for OpenAI, and I am reminded of the fact that, in a way, the culture of the Bay Area has turned into this space of erasure of artists and erasure of the importance of the culture that made this place so beautiful and so admirable from afar. And I really want to push myself to challenge that in this painting, to challenge the thought that tech libertarianism has completely taken over the city that once used to be the place to go if you were queer in the US. And I want to use it not just to paint beautiful things, but to be able to allow me to talk about these real difficulties and the hardship of the grief we have when the future we imagine doesn't match reality. And I'm coming to terms with the fact that I should probably leave the Bay Area and go somewhere else where I can be around more aligned people. But it's every time I go on a hike here, I hear somebody talking about their promotion or their LinkedIn or bubbling it up. And look, I understand the Bay Area is a high cost of living area. So for some people, they just gotta do what they gotta do to get that bag and pay their freaking rent. But it is not the culture I expected. And instead, it's something far worse and not me anymore. So there's that. Gotta make a painting to deal with the grief. So before I show you more art, I want to make a tiny disclaimer. This video is not to wave a badge of productivity in front of you, far from it. I am full-time with my art. I sold most of the paintings I made last year, and aside from my occasional teaching 1 or 2 days a week, I have more time than folks working full-time jobs to make this work. So please, do not use this video as fodder for comparison traps. The world is chaotic right now, and we all move at our own pace. I can't hike right now because I badly injured myself, so I am spending a ton of time in here. My goal with showing you these things is to inspire you to make things and to set you free from the expectation that you need to perform creativity as others expect you to on social media. Another piece of art I finished recently is, of course, this zine. So I started this back in November and then paused because... But then the fires happened in LA, and watching that horrifying thing happen was basically my last real experience with Instagram. Super positive, right? Watching my friends lose everything, lose their homes, lose their jobs, have to move out of state, and the deep frustration I felt of feeling like I really couldn't do anything while observing. I could donate to somebody's good GoFundMe, but I really couldn't do anything unless I was on the ground in LA. When I left Instagram, I hit the ground running on this in order to help. I was able to spend the time finishing and refining this zine that's all about go bags, which, if you're in the United States right now, honey, you need to have a fucking go bag. I have a free resource on my website with a list of things that can go in a go bag, but if you want to support me and my art and also have some simpler steps for making a go bag, you can get this. It's also a mutual aid project where I'm donating part of the proceeds to help folks rebuild and help folks get what they need in LA after the fires. I will link to the video that you can watch that's all about it, and I'll also post a link down below if you want to read more and see my actual receipts of the donations that I have been making since selling these. But yeah, I was able to make this zine, help people build go bags for disasters like this, and directly support victims of this tragedy, all because I quit Instagram. So 10 out of 10, highly recommend. Chapter 4, you can do this. If you are feeling inspired, seeing all the stuff I made, and want to try quitting Instagram yourself, I have a challenge for you. I want you to take yourself on a creative retreat. Now, I'm not telling you to go apply for an artist residency or to travel to some wild, far-off location. Instead, I want you to see exiting Instagram or TikTok, even for a short bit, like a weekend, and spending that time on your favorite creative hobby, time just for you, as a retreat. Instead of saying, I'm leaving for good, I want to challenge you to ask, what would happen if you deleted that app for a week and spent your time doing blank thing that you haven't been doing, but you really want to do? Like, look, Joann's is closing, and I've gone there, but I know that you probably went to get a deal and bought like an entire box of yarn or something like that, right? Like, let's make stuff. Let's make stuff with those supplies. We deserve joy, even in strange times like this. I want to share music here too in the next few months, and my goal by the end of the year is to try and score at least one of my own videos. Wish me luck. I'm scared. But seriously, treat any time of exit as an opportunity to create stuff very intentionally. If you want help or support with this, I made an affordable DIY creative retreat PDF that you can do from literally anywhere, with 9 different quests, journaling prompts, and ways to set up your space to give your mind, body, and spirit the generosity and permission it needs to create. I also do this kind of thing one-on-one, like a private art class that you get to do from anywhere to get you back in the creative habit. Not ready for any of that stuff? That's cool. I write free creative prompts for humans over on my Substack, so check those out too. Link down below. And yes, they are for humans, not for AI. Do not dare use them for AI, because if you do, the ghost of Miyazaki's forest creature from Princess Mononoke will haunt your dreams. So there's that. I also started releasing the prompts podcast style so you can listen to them when you're in the woods or wherever you want to make stuff. Chapter 5, knitting. So believe it or not, these paintings and my sketchbooks have not been the only thing I've been getting up to. The thing about knitting that has been blowing my mind is the fact that it is a physical representation of how much I was scrolling. And I'm really enjoying being a beginner at something again. And it's also the way that I'm managing my anxiety right now because the world is on fire. I wrote a piece on Substack all about the way that I used to draw, like this, and how that is one of the reasons that I'm disabled. I hurt my nerves in my shoulder bad by drawing in the way that I was in art school. But knitting allows me to sit in an ergonomic posture and do repetitive motions. I made this hat that I'm wearing. I really love it. I have also been working on this new hat project that's going to be a gift. The other thing that I've been working on is this scarf, and as of right now, it is almost as tall as I am. This is such a perfect representation for what I used to do scrolling. I don't really need to look at our screen and like 76 days, y'all. Thank you for staying all the way to the end. Hopefully, after seeing the huge swath of things I've made since quitting Instagram, you are feeling super inspired to try this out for yourself. And before you hop in the comments to be like, Mel, but you're still posting on YouTube. Okay, yeah, YouTube is of course still social media, but when I watch a long form video like this one, I develop a caring relationship with the creators I watch because I can actually hear their whole thoughts on something. Not just 3-second clip blinking to trending audio. I can actually remember who these creators are. Honest question, if you've seen some art on Instagram recently, do you remember who made it? The amnesia that happens when we see short form creative content is that we forget. And my goal for this year is to make more art, make more long form, and leverage those things to teach more classes online to people all over the world, not just those of y'all who are living in the Bay Area. So you can find out more by signing up for my email newsletter, link down below. And as I mentioned before, I am planning to leave the Bay in probably the next 6 months or so to try out living in a rural area, moving more slowly, and starting the foundations for my creative retreat center. So if that sounds like a journey you want to follow, do all the things, like, ascribe, whatever you know. Share this video with someone you think could benefit from the beauty of stepping away and making so much art that is found in leaving. And so until next time, stay creative and find your own ways to persistently